going to talk about now is gluing and clamping in the woods area. The common types of clamps that we have are the bar clamp for gluing together quite a number of pieces or a large area, and then the parallel or screw clamp that are probably for just holding two pieces of material together. When using the parallel or screw clamp, the two jaws should be kept basically parallel to each other rather than having them at a big angle, so that the pressure that you put on your material is even rather than strong on one side and then very little on the other side. With the bar clamp, because of the squeezing of the glue from between the materials, it's sometimes necessary to scrape the glue off of the bar so that your wood will glue down more evenly. Okay, with that, I would like to now basically demonstrate a little bit about gluing up some material like for a cutting board. Okay, for gluing, like for a cutting board, first off you would select your materials that you're going to use to laminate your cutting board. Then set up with your clamps, set up the material so that you have your clamps all ready to go. Like in this situation whereby there we have a space here, move that clamp up closer so that it takes less time and less effort to use the screw end of the clamp. Set them both about the same. Can't move it. Okay. Then when you get all ready to, and you're all set, then you're ready to start applying the glue. You probably will want to, even though that you have material that is of different lengths, you probably would want to keep one end approximately even to save waste. Okay. The way I prefer doing this is start with one piece of, leave the first piece of wood and start with the second piece of wood. Squeeze some glue onto the one surface of the piece of wood, and then take and push that against the first one and slide it down to spring. Okay, again, we'll get those together, then pick up the third piece of wood. Again, then make a run down the piece of wood with the glue, and just a nice solid bead, but not really swimming in glue. And again, hold it up and then push it against the piece of wood in front of it and slide it down, and just continue to do this all the way through until you get all your pieces of material with glue on them and glue between every one of them, keeping the one end relatively straight. Again, keeping that one end relatively straight is to cut down on the amount of waste. You always expect a little bit of waste in this, but if you are not careful by keeping one end straight, then when you get shorter pieces, one piece may be shorter on one end and one shorter on the other end, so that you have to cut quite a bit off of both ends, and your cutting board then comes out to be quite short. So always try to keep one end relatively straight. Just work your way clear through the whole bunch, and always putting them together, pushing them together, and then sliding them down together until you get to the last one. And of course the last one is done the same way, but then we have no more to put on. At this point, you can go ahead and slide the clamp together, make sure it's hooked, and then start with the screw handles turning in to get a tight clamp onto your material. You should have glue that will be squeezed out the top. And in a second I'll turn this over and you'll see that I think that we're also getting glue squeezed out the bottom. And when you do this, then you know that your glue joint is firm and solid all the way through. This is a little bit of a hassle. This is a little bit of a hassle when your glue is all dried and you're all finished, because then you have to scrape that glue off, but at least you know that you have glue completely through the whole width of all of your materials. One thing that you can do to cut down on the amount of work that's necessary for scraping the glue off is at this point, since the glue is nice and fresh, you can, with a wet paper towel, basically wipe most of it off, and then with a dry paper towel wipe that to get most of the glue off, so that your job of scraping when the glue is dried and set does not take as much effort. Again, make sure not only the top side, but then underneath on the bottom side is also wiped clean. While you have your material up in this position, you can assume that there's going to be glue that has dropped on the table, so then that glue should also then be cleaned up so that the glue table doesn't get taller and taller all the time. Okay, so basically, the cleaner the job that you do, the easier it's going to be later. When you're all finished with wiping it up, cleaning up the table, then it's ready to be stored, and you should check with your instructor as to where this should be stored, whether it's in the student project locker cabinets or somewhere else in the shop. Okay, reminder of just some things that you should be aware of, and that is when you're first setting up your clamps or your bar clamps, to make sure that your handle is turned back away so that you have lots of threads between your handle and the clamp itself, so that you can turn it up so that you do get a tight fit. If you turn this handle all the way in and there's not any pressure put onto the wood yet, of course you're not going to get a good glue job. So make sure that when you set your clamps up, that you turn the handles back out so that you have plenty of threads, so that you can get a good tight fit on your wood after you've glued it. Okay, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to glue two pieces of material together edge to edge in this manner. And again, what I'm going to do first is get my clamps ready before I start spreading glue. And notice that these clamps, the screw handle is turned way in, so therefore I should back it out so that I get lots of threads pushed in. Okay? Make sure that both clamps are set up the same way. Sometimes they're tough to turn, and sometimes we have to go through the process of cleaning not only the bars, sometimes the glue gets filled onto the screw the handles themselves. Okay, once I have the handles turned out, place the wood onto the clamps, bring up the end of the clamp to make sure it's going to fit. Okay, and then at this point we can spread the glue on the one joint, on the one side of the joint on one piece of wood, run it down, again slip the two edges of wood together to form or spread the glue through the whole edge, and use the clamps very carefully, one and then the other, to start to tighten those two pieces of wood together, making sure that your pieces of wood are fitting surface to surface, so that you don't have a gap. One is way higher than on, and the other one is way lower on the other side. So hold those together to make sure that they are as close as you can get them, surface to surface. Okay, as soon as you get them snug but not really, really tight, just really good and snug, and clean up your glue from the top, and of course then pick it up, and if you have a good glue joint, you're going to have glue come through to the bottom. And in some situations, this material may want to bow a little bit, and if it does, then we can use a screw clamp in this manner to actually clamp that piece of wood to the bar clamp to keep it straight. Another thing that you have to know that is the fact that if those edges are not perfectly straight and square, that you're going to have problems, and so it may become necessary to get an edge-to-edge glue joint. It may become necessary to joint them on the jointer before you start to try to glue them. Okay, again, get your glue set up. Make sure that your edges are going to fit together properly. If not, you may have to joint them. Then after you get it clamped together and just a good firm snug fit, take a look and make sure that your board is straight. If it needs to be, then actually clamp it with a parallel or screw clamp down to the bar clamp so that when that glue sets and dries, your board is going to be straight. Another material that you probably will want to glue up in the shop facility is plastic, or like making a pen set. Okay, we have this plastic that has been, the paper has been removed. We have some other plastic here that the paper is still on. You want to keep that paper on as long as you can to protect your plastic surface, because it will get dirty very easy, and it will also get scratched up very easy, and you want to keep it as clean and as dirt-free as you possibly can. You want to do this kind of work in the approved area, and for some shops it'll be a different place than for other shops. The way we get this started is we take one piece of acrylic plastic and we take the laminating cement. We get some laminating cement onto a sucker stick and just simply spread it across the face of that piece of material. Take another one and then do the same thing with that one, putting the unsmeared side down against the previous one that had been worked on. Again, then take another piece and make sure again that you have plenty of glue or laminating cement, but then take and set the one that you didn't spread on down onto the glued face of the other one. And you just keep working through that until you get all of your pieces so that all of them have laminating cement on them. Okay, after all the glue has been spread and you have the two outside pieces that are free of laminating cement, and you had your first clamp basically set so that it's all ready to just very carefully and gently turn the screws in to clamp that piece of material together and hold it firm, and keep your jaws parallel. And this is why this is called a parallel clamp, is because these need to be kept parallel. Put one clamp on one side, then we can turn it a little bit, take another clamp and finish clamping it from the other side. But now this clamp is, I want you to notice, is not nearly adjusted properly. So I'm going to have to take just a minute here and work with the screw handles to get this thing adjusted properly so that I'm screwing it down parallel. Okay, so basically I took and worked with those screw handles so it's still almost fitting and parallel. And now I will screw that into together a little bit more and then tighten them so that I have two clamps on it, and both of them are one from either end, and the fact that it's being held parallel between the two of the clamps. Find that this is much easier than trying to put the whole thing into one, because you're more apt to get a good glue job and get both ends glued properly. After this has been done, again, maybe wipe it up a little bit with some paper towel, and then find out from your instructor where this is to be kept while the glue set. Okay, when cleaning this up, you use a piece of paper towel to wipe off the excess laminate or glue. Okay, make sure that when you finish doing this, that this piece of paper towel doesn't just get thrown in a regular garbage can. Make sure, because this is highly flammable materials, make sure that it gets put into the flammable can that is for the purpose of holding the flammable materials in a fire retardant or fireproof can. Also, make sure that you try to keep your hands out of that stuff, because it dries very quickly and gets cold on your hands, and then quite frankly it just kind of sets up and your fingers are really kind of feel a little bit weird, and I'm not sure what the danger of it going into your system, but keep it as much as you can off of your hands so that you don't have that problem.
This is the belt stroke sander. It is a surfacing type sander. It is used to surface wood such as a cutting board. This particular machine has a belt which is 6 inches wide by 168 inches long, and it's a continuous belt. Now this machine, as with most of our sanders, you do need permission every time you use it. Also, there is a size limitation. The wood that you're going to sand down has to be